Leandro.
G'day, mate. How you doing?
I'm great. It's great to have you on the podcast again.
I'm so glad to be here in person in Melbourne.
I know.
We first did this during COVID, couldn't leave my house. Then I think we did one virtual, and now I'm here. It's incredible.
Exactly. It's the second time we're meeting in person.
Yes.
And first time that we're doing podcast in
Yeah.
person. So
IRL.
I know. I'm really excited. I want to talk to you about, guess what? AI
Oh,
marketing. It's everywhere when it comes to Salesforce, like Salesforce talking about the AI capability of the platform all the time. I want to go right into it,
wow.
into the meat and potatoes.
Buy me a drink first,
Well,
man.
we got some water on the table. There's a lot of talks, obviously. Salesforce talks a lot about AI, but one of the things that you come across quite a lot in the media is, this is great, but Salesforce really doesn't have the capability, or it's, there's a lot of marketing talk about AI and the capabilities are not there, right? So first I want to tackle that. What are your thoughts on that? Well, what's your kind of response to that from inside of the organization, looking out and people saying that Salesforce is still not there and there's a long way to go and it's a lot of kind of marketing talk?
Firstly, how long? An hour or 2 hours? Look, there's many ways I can approach that. I think starting off, it's definitely real. We've got customers in production, and actually ourselves as a customer. We like to call ourselves customer zero. So a good test on this actually is, of all the people that are talking about AI, and in particular agents, how many have them running on their own website?
Mm,
I think your answer you'll find is one, and that's Salesforce. So we have Salesforce Agentforce running on our help.salesforce.com, which is our support portal. It receives 30,000 customer inquiries every single week.
Jeez.
And Agentforce has been deployed there since the beginning of the year. It's handled 850,000 conversations. 85% of them are now handled by the agent. So whether it's real it is, we're using it ourselves, but that's just us, right? We've got thousands of customers all around the world. We're talking about, we have some events coming up. We'll be featuring a whole bunch of them. We featured Fisher & Paykel, which is an amazing customer from across the ditch in New Zealand. We've got global customers like Goodyear. We've got global customers like, actually remarkable, my little tablet here, using it on their website. So it's definitely real. I think what sometimes people confuse is that, yes, it is our job to go out and inspire, right? To help people understand what the future is. And to do that, sometimes you need to be talking about capabilities that maybe aren't even available yet in their environment, because potentially the IT department hasn't turned it on, right? And that's because the human nature is it takes some time, especially with new breakthroughs like agentic AI, to understand how it's going to work for your business. And so for us, we have this mission of obviously continuously giving innovation to our customers 3 times a year. So we must ensure that our customers are aware of it before it comes to them, and then potentially before their own organization has turned it on. And so it's definitely real. We're very excited about it. We've called our platform now Agentforce, right? Because it is the big focus, and it's something that I'm personally really excited about, and we'll be talking about all this week when I'm down here in Melbourne.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. And I think, the capability of managing 85% of the inquiries, that is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
There is maybe an adjacent kind of argument where it talks about not necessarily just Salesforce, but Salesforce is first SaaS company that introduced a SaaS model.
1999.
Right, that's right. And obviously it took off from there, and a lot of other organizations that are doing the same thing. There's an argument that talks about SaaS is dead.
Yes.
SaaS is roast. And a lot of people talk about Salesforce, right? Because again, it's the biggest cat in town. But a few years ago, you see titles of like, organizations moving away from Salesforce or Workday or, whatever it is, and they're going to be building their own applications. And now you see with the capabilities of building software within a couple of hours, it's like, hey, setting up this feature with this Salesforce consultant, and they quoted us $75,000. I can do that within a day now with capability, the AI capabilities of building software. How is that landscape is changing? And do you think there is truth to that? And if there is, what are you thinking? And what is the organization kind of thinking about this?
Yeah, so it's super interesting. Some folks may not know, but I am CMO today, but I actually studied computer science. So I may know a thing or two and actually started off as a programmer back in the day.
Right, you bring all the credentials.
Yeah, people actually, it's funny when you go in a marketing room and people are like, that can't be done. I'm like, yeah, let's rethink that. That definitely can be done. Look, I think there's a conflation of a few different things. I think a few people are saying, yeah, look, I've seen some of these vibe coding apps, which is what they
Mm,
are, right? And wow, I can create this thing in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes that's incredible. The reality is that the code that gets generated under those right now is like spaghetti, right? Like it's great for an individual to do something, but if you think about what we provide for businesses is we provide a platform that is a reliable system for the organization to run. It's a system of a record, system of an engagement, and you can't rely on multiple spaghetti codes trying to talk to each other, right? Like that's and by the way, that's the now. It's definitely going to improve, and many organizations are using not the vibe coding, but AI to actually generate code. But they're actual professional coders that then understand the code and can debug it. The reality is that yes, we have some tools that may seem simple. You mentioned like a configuring an object or something, but if anyone that's been in the enterprise realizes that it's quite easy to get a UI with the box, where you enter it and retrieve it, but it's where that data comes from, how it's governed, who has permission to it. Like we've got government agencies, like actually
mm,
Victorian government is a customer, or airlines and hotels where the integrity of that data, like that you have a booking when you head with your family somewhere across the world, you want that to be correct when it's pulled up, right? And so the complexity actually comes in connecting with all the systems and ensuring that it's the right data for that system at the right time and that you can access it. And that's the bit that people misunderstand, right? Especially people that maybe hear a podcast or see a news article and they go to their team is like, surely we can just go and use AI to do this now. I think the fundamental is firstly, like I mentioned, these apps are still very immature that generate code. Two, you have literally no idea what's being created in them. Like
mm.
it can look like it's doing something, which is fine if you test it and it works for you. But then when you put it in an enterprise system, you still need to understand. And if you go and ask, and by the way, not even the largest of the large, mid-sized CIO, you're like, would you deploy something like this without testing it? It would be an absolute
The
no.
CIO. Oh, I see. You brought the CIO in the
Well, think
equation.
about it. It's literally like installing spyware in your organization, like putting something like back in the day, they're like, don't download software and install it on your machine. It's the equivalent of that. You have no idea the code that's running inside of it, right? But even if it wasn't malicious, it just probably wouldn't get the job done, especially when you scale across not even thousands, but just tens of employees where they're
Mm,
needing to interact. So I think that those very early, premonitions that SaaS is not going to be, here or it's not going to be necessary are incorrect. Definitely in the short term, but I think in the long term we do see a vision where AI and agents are helping us. Where the unlock for us is that the business user will be able to talk to a system like Salesforce, which is established on the data, right? It already knows the sources of truth and has the integration. And it, on top of that system, can get work done faster than ever before and can use business language or English, I should say, rather than coding. I think that's the unlock. That's the architecture we're thinking, which is you still need a fundamental data layer, right? Which is why we've got a Salesforce platform that allows you to store data. And then we have a tool on top called Data Cloud that lets you bring in data from other systems. And then the agentic layer is on top of that. And so then you're actually dealing with trusted data with integrated systems. And yes, then the language is English. And so we do see an evolution of not needing potentially the same level of expertise to do some simple things or even to create applications that you use within your own business. But it's got to be based on trust and it's got to be based on these sources of truth. Otherwise, you're really dealing with a system that is unmanageable into the future. So I only just scrapped the top of the tippy of the iceberg there because it's quite a deep topic, but I feel pretty passionate about it just based on my understanding of how all the technology is working and where it's going.
what do you think is going to change in the marketing landscape? I was listening to somebody who had a conversation with a CEO of an organization that turned 10,000 employees. And he was talking about our goal was to bring down our number of employees. We've gone from 10,000 to 7,000, not because the company is getting smaller, but because we're introducing efficiencies. Our goal in the next 18 months is to get to 5,000. And then after that is to get to 3,800 employees by introducing efficiencies in the company. And they're not unique. I mean, CEO of Amazon just came out and he just made a very clear announcement that we're going to be cutting staff. And that is because it's going to be replaced by AI. How is marketing going to be impacted by this? What's going to change?
Yeah, I think, and my personal opinion is sometimes you have to take those CEOs with a grain of salt because they're saying things that they want their shareholders to hear,
That's
right?
also true.
And
But
maybe they're saying some of those things because they want to show that they're going to have a better dividend or a better, stock price. They may have had efficiencies in place before AI. So I think we just need to be careful. Sometimes they get conflated for the
mm,
press, I think, number one. In terms of AI, well, firstly, actually, in terms of efficiency, businesses are always trying to become more efficient, right? And there are times where businesses grow and maybe they, get ahead of their skis, right? We saw that quite a lot during COVID, where some businesses, where everything was going to be at home health and so forth, and then everyone comes back out into the world and wants to go back to gyms and so forth. We've seen that, a lot of that, right?
yeah.
So sometimes businesses get ahead of their skis, and again, that's not related to AI. That's just good business management. You can't afford sometimes the cost bases that you set up. When it comes to AI, like our stance is that, yes, there may be some roles that are redefined, but we believe that what agents and agentic AI proves is that it's not about really replacing jobs. It's about augmenting the human workforce that you have, right? So allowing them to get to the real meat of the work that should be done by a human. But in fact, we've bloated them with all these repetitive tasks that because of the systems actually that we've put in place that don't let them get that work done. So they will become more efficient. They're going to be augmented. And then you'll actually be able to do the things you don't get to do. And that's where they connect back to marketing. I talk to CMOs all around Australia and all around the world, actually, when I travel. Very few of them say, wow, I've got the perfect number of people to do all the work that I get asked from my CFO, CEO, salespersons that they deal with, or even the market. In fact, it's the opposite. They have to prioritize their work that they get done because they just don't have enough hours in the day for themselves personally and their teams. So when you think about the unlock that agents and AI can deliver to them, it's not about being able to just cut half the team. It's now, okay, can this set of tasks be done by agents, which actually allows their stuff to be more creative, to actually get to the things they want to do to help the business grow? And that's what I'm talking to a lot of the CMOs that I talk to about. But also what our vision is with Agent Force, right? It's humans with agents working together. So let's talk a little bit about this practically. Before, when I started marketing, there wasn't 15 social networks, right? I'm dating myself a little bit, but there was, maybe search, and there was quite a few search engines, but there was like one social network, and then it became multiple platforms. Now my team, when they release social content, sure, the same with yourself, which channel, what format? Are we doing 15 formats? Are we going to do like A/B testing on each headline? I'm like, that's thousands of permutations, right? No one went to college, university to go and do that work,
Yeah.
right? It's quite repetitive. It's like A/B testing. It's like increments. It's digits. It's not necessarily, really bringing out the best in my team. Sure, it's important because you want to optimize, right? What I would prefer is that you have an agent that can, okay, here's the creative material. Go and optimize for what's being clicked on, change a few headlines, augment the creative, put it on the right platform for that audience. And then you have the team able to work with our internal sales team to go, okay, what's the latest messaging? What's the product that we're trying to sell? How are we going to disseminate that? And then have the agent help with that sort of last mile and optimize. And that, by the way, is a much more pleasing place to be as a marketer because it's leaning into our strengths of creativity, strategy, collaboration, empathy with our fellow colleagues. So that's my stance. That's what I'm seeing within my team right now and what I'm talking. But yes, like mentioned before, many people hear one thing, they go somewhere else, and they conflate a few things together. And it can be a little bit dangerous. It's a bit of a recipe for disaster when you don't quite understand the technology or you haven't rolled it out, actually. Many people are talking this way before they've even had a POC or a pilot on these things. I'm talking from experience from we, as Customer Zero, have deployed, and then thousands of customers all around the world using this technology, and what I'm seeing them do as well.
Where do you think specifically is most of the change is going to happen in the marketing world?
In marketing, well, let me start off with ourselves at Salesforce. So I mentioned earlier, we deployed it on our support portal. We've also deployed Agentforce on our homepage, on our website. So historically, we spent a lot of time optimizing the web page to try to get people to click on certain things, right? Had web team trying to work out, okay, we've got this piece of content. Are they going to click here? What's the offer we're going to make? Now we actually have an agent, and the agent is a currently typing interface. It may go voice in the future, who knows, right? But right now, most people still explore on their phone or on a desktop our website. And what we now do is instead of working out where to place things in the color of the pixels, which literally was like whole week experiments, we're giving the right content to the agent. So we're telling it, this is the product description. This is really what we want to highlight. This is a customer story, a local customer story, because sometimes, we have global launches, we get global stories, but here's a local customer story. And the agent now has the conversation and actually can share this information with the customer while they're doing it. The next step is that the web page will actually start to render as they're having the conversation to sort of give them the answer. So that meant the change is mucking around on the front end and tinkering, which, by the way, no one studied marketing to do, became more of a computer science experiment, to actually being a good marketer and going, do we have the right collateral assets, customer stories? Because you need to go out and talk to the customer, get their approval, get that done, and feeding that in. And then thinking about the journey you want them to have with the agent. So, okay, maybe they're having a conversation talking about product. Maybe they want some success ROI. So they're going to want a customer story. Maybe then they want to talk about pricing. And that means the agent needs to have, that can't make it up, right? It needs to have all this information. And so it becomes more of an orchestration role. So the marketers need to think about what's the journey, which, by the way, is real marketing, all right? What's the journey you want someone to have in a conversation? Like you would imagine you could actually tell the journey that you'd had with a sales rep. By the way, they don't listen, but now you can, right? You can control that orchestration. So I think the roles that move are some of these jobs that that came out in the last 10 or so years that were extensions of the platforms. They were basically created because we have these platforms that needed these things. So A/B testing, highlighting headlines, a little bit of copy editing, but not actually understanding marketing, like not knowing what you were trying to say, back to real marketing, which is you have to understand the product, you have to understand why it sells and the materials and collaterals are needed. And then this newer kind of orchestration role, which moves from a functional expert, like really well how to create a customer story. But you actually need to know where it sits in the journey and what are the benefits of the product. So it's actually a more holistic marketer is where I see. So it's not an easy thing to answer because it's still evolving, but I think it's moving from, we kind of went down specialist in the last 10 years, like specific platform, specific capability for that platform. I think it's going to zoom back out a little bit to being general good marketing principles and understanding how customer journeys work. Now, I'm speaking B2B. B2C is a little different, but that's what I'm already planning for. And then the last but not least, adaptability, because it's going to change, right? I think one thing that I ask my team is that just literally, because we did it yesterday or last week, may not be the way we want to do in the future with the access to the new tools, right? And to the new approaches. And if you're not, and I'm seeing it already in some people very good at what they do because they've done it before, but really struggle with the change of rethinking the process in a new world.
It's really hard.
Yeah,
It's really hard.
Because, an example of that is maybe your customer didn't find you with a search engine. Maybe they got given the answer from their own, ChatGPT or Gemini, right? We're seeing that, right?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that.
Right. So in that world, the customer is coming to you not from a little blue link. Maybe they actually have a sort of idea of what they already want, right? Which is more well-formed than it was before. And so how do they discover you? Well, it ensures that the content you had on your website has to be something that maybe the LLM would spit out, right? And so if your web team's not willing to change, like if literally an SEM or SEO expert, is what I'm saying, specialization, that their whole career has been doing that.
I feel like that's what has happened. No SEO expert is going to argue that their profession is changing. I don't know what is the
Yeah.
I don't know if you can share anything about Salesforce, but I mean I know there's a lot of talks about HubSpot's traffic massively tanking.
Well, their whole business is built on content marketing.
Well, they're all inbound, right? But I mean they're also some interesting plays from their side, but I mean, even from our organization, right?
Yeah.
Like our traffic is tanked.
Yeah.
Our rankings have not changed.
Yeah.
right?
Just
There's
people aren't going through.
yeah, there's certain keywords that we want to be ranking, and they've stayed same. Some of them have improved. Our traffic has, I think, decreased by 70%, right? Just like boom.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're seeing on that front at Salesforce, but
Well, a few things. Firstly, before we even get to that point, that kind of proves what I was saying before, which is, and the first reaction people have with some of this new technology, oh, my job will go or the role's changing. And then I kind of remind them that some of these roles didn't exist 10 years ago, right?
mm,
Like the SEO ninja, like 20 years ago when I was at uni, it did not exist, right? The idea was that Google had the best algorithm and it would just showcase the best websites. And then came this whole industry. And by the way, it's not a great industry, right? It's like constantly working out how to hijack a term. And it kind of went away from the principle of just showing the businesses that had the best answer for the human. And so that's number one. Number two is a lot of people think about this in the business world, but what you're talking about here is how the individual consumer is changing with technology available to them. And so, a lot of people in business are trying to resist change, but I'm like, but you personally in your life are using this stuff and changing. So it's
mm,
like, it's a disconnect there, right?
yeah,
So, but to answer your question specifically, yes, absolutely. Again, I told the team this was going to happen about 12 months ago. I said, when I started seeing what we were doing, and I said, the world is going to change because, yes, the consumer is going to have access to this technology. They're going to get answers faster. And whether they believe them or not, sometimes people take things wholesale. Like it's quite hard. If you ask something, what's the best CRM? Obviously, I think it's Salesforce. Now, beyond that, though, we have number one rankings from IDC, G2. So there are validations behind that. But an LLM might say another provider just because someone
might
wrote.
read something on Reddit,
Yeah, and say that's
and
the best
yeah,
provider, right? And so we need to be prepared for a world where obviously the misinformation will be presented almost more factually, right, in a response, or that the human has read something and they already actually know the answers. They're like, okay, I kind of feel like I already want Salesforce. I want this product. So when they come to the website, they don't want to be hit with the same marketing spiel. They're like, well, how do I get this for my business? Like, what's the pricing? Show me some examples in my industry and get going. And so what we're doing is we're actually looking at the content that we have on our website. Can it be digested by the LLMs? And do we have the proof points in that with authority? And by the way, it's the new black science, right? Like no one knows exactly
yeah.
how it all gets cooked up, but it does. I'm actually happy about it because a lot of the vendors around our space kind of rose with, in my opinion, maybe a subpar product, but just hijacking some of the SEO, SEM techniques that, in my opinion, don't give the best outcome for the consumer, but make it look like, one person in a garage can look as big as a multi-billion-dollar organization, right? And that can be good for a startup, but it's not necessarily good for the end customer, in my opinion.
You said 10 years ago you start going down the path of specialization, and I'm guessing I want to first of all clarify what you meant by that. I'm gonna guess that you meant vertical, very specific, content about this industry, and you're saying now you're going to be zooming out. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so like when B2B marketing teams started, even before my time, the way they were set up was like you'd have like a campaigns person, you might have an events person, you may have, and this is a big company, like a brand person. Now, if you go in, it's not just like the vertical and the content, but literally the tactic that you're executing, like webinars on this platform. I'm like, what is going on here, right? Like it's a person that all they know
Oh, I see. I
is a
see. Yeah.
specific tool. And yes, it's important, like when you scale, that you bring someone in that knows that tool and then can execute them, at scale. And the same with the platforms, like paid media. There are people that only know a certain platform and how to optimize it. And I'm like, that's insane, right? Because firstly, those platforms have come up and grown and been successful, but they're always evolving and changing. And when I'm saying now, when there's a paradigm shift, then you kind of that was great for a moment in time. It's a little bit like, even everyone was saying the best job's a prompt engineer. Like, I'm like, that's a moment in time, right? Like, the tools are going to get better where you don't need to be
I mean,
an
ask
expert.
ChatGPT to give the prompt yourself. That's what I do. I'm like,
Right.
I want you to do this. Give me a prompt.
Right. And this is why I kind of laugh when people are like, well, but it got rid of all that. I'm like, they were nothing jobs in the first place, right? They're people being opportunistic, and
Mm.
it's great. We needed those, but they're not good marketers, right? Sometimes, not all the time. But so the principles of marketing, I think, are when I say zoom out, is what you want to have, right? And you want to ensure that you understand, your traditional segmentation. What are you talking about? In B2B, it's a lot about the product marketing as well. So what the product that's being built and delivering that to the actual market, product market fit, the customer stories to support that, the ROI to support that, the demos to show, like, that is what we need to get back to. And I feel some of that was lost actually in this last sort of decade. So that's sort of the clarifications.
Interesting.
Go
So
ahead.
you're saying that previously we had these very specialist individuals inside of the company. That's going to take a step back. You're going to zoom out, and there's going to be someone who, maybe it's not a specialist on webinar, but it's events, digital
Yes.
or
Yes.
online or offline, and then they're going to have their digital workforce
Correct.
where they're going to assist them in executing on these more nuanced.
Yes. And with that comes a whole new world, right? Because now, and we were going to get there, but we think we've got there sooner. We go to a world where the humans have to also manage not just humans, but agents as well. So this is this world that humans and agents working together. And our CEO likes to say that this is actually the last generation where leadership will only manage humans.
Hmm.
Now we're going to be managing humans and agents. And that's a whole new skill set, right? Because an agent, isn't like managing a human where you are managing their days off and, what do they do on the weekend? It's managing the outcomes and how they're doing and guiding. Because the agent, by the way, is deployed by a human and can do a good job or a bad job actually based on what you instruct it to do and what its metrics of success are. And it requires, again, a different thinking to coach an agent on outcomes versus just go do this thing, right? Which is what a lot of people do with prompts at the moment. They're like, just do this. And that's why the answers are kind of half-baked, right? You have to be very specific. Like, I need it to do this by this date for this purpose. This is what success looks like. Maybe even showcasing examples of good success. And that's a different skill set as well, right?
Are you there right now?
Yeah, and look, by the way, like I said, we're customer zero. We're learning as we're going.
You as in yeah, as in sorry, not Salesforce, but
Yes,
Leandro. Yeah, as in
yes, yeah. So, like I mentioned, I have an agent on my website now, and that's one of many we've deployed. So that agent, I have to sort of tune it with my team because we've scaled it, right? To say, is this agent doing so? A good example. The agent was a little bit too friendly when it started off. And I'm like, where are the leads? Right. So the agent was being very helpful, providing information, but didn't ever close, which is to try to generate either a handoff to a human for a meeting or to offer some pricing. And I'm like, hey, that agent needs to improve. Right. And so
to hit those lead numbers.
yeah, right. Like, what's our success metric on the website? It's obviously conversion
Yeah.
to the sales team. That's a principle in marketing for B2B. And the web agent was doing an amazing job having these great conversations. Everyone's happy. This is awesome. But I'm like, Leandro needs the leads, right? So we tweaked it and tuned it. And basically, it's ensuring the agent more often says, hey, I've given you this information. Would you love to, organize a meeting with someone in your area on those topics? I can email you that. It's just being a little bit more proactive,
Yeah.
right? Same, actually. So that's our website. We've also deployed a sales development rep agent. So we talked a lot about marketing, but in sales, those roles are going to change too. So we have a role. So for the folks that are not in B2B or don't have a team called sales development rep, they're the people that we pass the leads to before they go to our account executives. Obviously, our account executives work with our customers. Their time is limited. We want to make sure there's some vetting on those leads that come from our website. Sometimes the person that's interested might want the solution, but they don't have budget or their project's in 2 years. So we're trying to limit what we send through to the to the humans, the AEs. And so what the sales development rep agent does now, and we had to tune this as well, is okay, take that lead, Firstly, we want to make sure that the person stays engaged. So by the time they get to the account executive, if that's going to be a day or two, we know that the best results are literally within an hour. So we need to make sure that they're engaging. So what happened at first actually with this agent was it was a little too productive. And so if if someone came in on a Saturday and put in that they
Oh,
wanted to
wow.
talk
The
to someone,
weekend.
the agent just kept going and would be like, "Hey, just checking in." It was like on Sunday now, just checking in. Like, how do you want any more information? And so the agent was a little too productive, right? Or it would like if you message something at like 8 or 9 p.m., it didn't have the knowledge to go. Well, now it's 3 a.m. in the morning. You're not going to be, "Hey, how you going?" Right? Like, yeah, here's some more. Here's an ebook on the state of marketing, right?
3 a.m.
So basically, we had to change the instructions to the agent to give it some guidance, which is, hey, typical business hours, probably going to be this and this. If you get a response, unless someone's asking for a response over the weekend, like don't go back over the week. So it was a little bit of etiquette and culture, right? Or for example, we actually had to change. So this is more of a global use case, but all around the world, there's different opt-in policies for email. So even though someone has said they want to interact, in some countries it's a double opt-in. Like you've got to send them something and then they've got to respond back.
Yeah.
And the agent didn't have that. And by the way, humans don't have that either when they start on the job. So I actually think the journey of an agent starting is much like hiring an intern, right? Like they're learning how to interact and you're giving it guidance. So back to your point, that's what I'm doing right now, right? I'm working with my team. In fact, we just announced overnight a tool called Command Center that lets you see the agents, how they're performing on the metrics you've assigned. And you can even go down to the conversation level to interact and inspect. That's what you would do with a new
Wow.
hire, right? You would listen in on a call or they would shadow because, everyone just thinks they go from 0 to 100, like, oh my God, agents replace all the jobs. It's like, no. This is doing a specific task. It's just like a person where you need to give them access to the data. You got to give them the right roles. You need to guide them, and then they're going to do one thing.
How has that changed the SDR function in your team?
Yeah. So again, going back to this principle, like our SDR team could not keep up now. You're going to say, "Leandro, your marketing team's too good." They could never keep up with the volume of leads that we create, right? Like I'm like, we need more leads, right? I'm someone that drives our team to be, I passionately feel that we have the best solutions. And I want everyone to know about them across the whole continent, right? And so we generate a lot of interest. But our sales development team, sometimes they're up or down. Like maybe there's someone out on maternity leave or, it's a long
Mm.
weekend or someone's sick. So their capacity isn't like infinite and it's not perfectly elastic, right? So what the agent has allowed us to do is be more consistent, right? So when we are not able, so for example, we have an event coming up, we have 3,000 people coming. We've got to follow up with a lot of people, especially if they went to the booths and interacted. That's more. And so that's kind of like a surge, right? And that's not every day, right? So we can't just go and hire to double or triple the size of the SDR team. So what this has allowed us to do is firstly, in marketing, we feel good when the work that we're doing to generate something gets followed up on, right? And that's the
That's
biggest
true.
pain for
Amen.
for
Amen.
B2B marketers is like an SDR or an AE not following up on something you've generated. Like, come on, guys, follow up on the stuff,
Now
right?
I'm going to put my robot on this. They're going to follow up everything.
Well, the agent can then keep that lead warm, right? Put them on a journey and then only escalate the best ones. And we've got lead scoring, obviously, to work out, which are the ones to do that. So I think it's created a better environment. And by the way, the sales development reps, they're actually happy that this is there because they are now getting the best leads, the
Mm.
creme de la creme, right? The good leads, to use an old analogy from Glengarry Glen Ross. So they're getting, the best stuff to work on. And they're metriced not on the number of leads they process, but actually the outcome, which is setting up meetings that convert to eventual sales. So I think for them, they're really happy of what we're doing because we used to be just pumping everything through as well.
But are we going towards a direction that at some point we just don't need inbound SDRs?
Yeah, look, again,
I mean,
yeah.
let's be very honest here. There was a number of years ago that AI couldn't do a lot of things, right? Then start beating us at this quiz game and then at chess and then at this and at the pace that it's going, what stops us to say that, hey, within a year, there is a good chance that we might not need as inbound SDRs, at least inbound SDRs, maybe
Yeah.
even outbound SDRs.
Yeah. And it's a good question because back to where I was saying before, like SDRs, like I feel like at Salesforce, we kind of invented the inbound SDR, right? Because with, the cloud and subscription model, and what all those SDRs want to be, and I'm speaking for Salesforce, is account
AEs.
executives.
That's right. Get me to the AE position.
So if you can effectively and efficiently triage leads and ensure you're answering customers' questions and connect them with the account executive, which really most customers, they don't want to have to go multiple stages. They just want to talk to someone that can, okay, well, quote me on this, help me understand, is this realistic? We can be in a world where we'd have more capacity for AEs, right?
Mm,
And that's not a bad outcome as
interesting.
well.
Interesting.
Now, I think the only challenge is a lot of people learn their craft of how to be an AE through being an SDR. And this is what I'm telling my team, is that we just need to think about if the agent now is gaining knowledge in an area, how to ensure that that knowledge is not lost in the business as well, because you need to understand how that's working. And that's where some SDRs that have raised their hands, they want to be the managers of the SDR agents. Right.
They're like, I'm going to be looking at what this guy is doing.
But also to manage, like they do need, and it's
Yeah.
humans and agents.
It's a good point.
So it's like the creation of a new role, like a manager of SDR agents, right?
Mm.
And in that role, these people are now looking after, okay, does the SDR agent have enough information to answer the questions, right? Because sometimes they come to us and said, hey, the SDR agent didn't have access to these new products that came out, or these latest ROIs,
These case studies,
all these cases.
yeah.
So there is an element of triaging, like making sure we're feeding in the right material, or some coaching on, we actually are changing our positioning. We don't want the agents to talk like this anymore.
Yeah, right.
And so brand new role, right? And so there's some people that are actually wanting to step up right now to be part of that process so that they can, potentially create themselves a new role in the future.
I want to ask a question about yourself.
Yeah.
So outside of Salesforce, what are the AI tools that you're using?
Yeah. And look, it blends for me because obviously the tools that I use at home even help me with being a good CMO. And so whenever it flips over to needing to do something even sort of Salesforce specific, we have internal tools, right? So, Google's a good partner of ours. So we have access to Gemini. We're obviously huge users of Slack. And within Slack now as well, there's a lot of artificial intelligence to help me get through and find good information. So I even follow personal channels on Slack around what's happening around AI. On my sort of flipping over though, personal life is I'm helping my daughter. She's in year 12 this year. I'm helping her, with study for a lot of the subjects in year 12. And what's useful is to be able to condense like a syllabus into something manageable that I can have a conversation with her about. So obviously, like most parents, we need to brush up on some of the things that, even though she does business studies, the marketing chapter, I'm like, let's brush up on that international foreign exchange policy or whatever. And so I'm using it to kind of educate myself on, refresh on a topic before I have a conversation with her.
What are you using?
So I'll use a variety like ChatGPT, Perplexity. I also have Gemini personally, because they're just general knowledge sources. I like to use voice a lot, actually. So that's one. Second is I use things like 11 Labs because I drive a lot, and I obviously can't be reading magazines while I'm driving. Now, I love podcasts, but not everything, especially sometimes these very deep topics, they're sometimes written. And so I can throw it into 11 Labs and actually reads it back to me in a really conversational voice that doesn't sound like it's Siri reading something out to me. Beyond that, obviously, a lot of AI, what I'm using it as for is because I like to code, is just to my own things, right? So I built myself, and this wasn't with actually vibe coding because I actually like to know the code underneath it, but I'm using some of the new tools that help test the coding that you have. And it's been a few decades since I've done production code, so I'll code, and then it helps sort of me with the testing and curation. So I've built myself a little personal finance app so that I used to be all spreadsheets, and I would just get so frustrated because I know the potential of databases to see, okay, I changed this number. Was that a mistake, or when did I change it? Right. And I just never had the time to literally build a full stack personal finance app. I now have, right?
So what did you use? What was the kind of technology that you obviously you did some of the coding by the sound of it? What were the technology pieces that were in
Yeah,
there?
yeah. So I switched because I have personally a lot of stuff in Google. They've got a tool called AppSheet, which helps you store. It's like a sort of a hosted database,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, there's a coding language, and they're actually using a bit of their Gemini to help you create the code without seeing it. But I actually wanted to do it, and then there's SQL in there to actually query the database. And then what I'm mucking around with now is sort of a visual layer because it's not like the prettiest app. So I'm like, okay, let's see how that's where I don't mind the vibe coding because
Yeah.
the UI, it's not necessarily dependent on any of the other layers. So if it falters, the underlying data and the business logic is still there. So actually, that is where I've noticed that it's the rapid prototyping for the UI layer is happening. So tested out like Lovable or Replit, some of these things there. But again, they're a bit more like a toy at the moment compared to the real high-end production sort of programming tools that people are using, like Windsurf and Cursor.
Cursor, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's an exciting time if you're a geek. My wife's like, "What? Can you?"
My wife's like, "Do you wanna ask your friend ChatGPT about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do, I do."
Do you know what one that I wish is that it's not there yet? So I play the piano. I studied, when I was younger, and then I stopped for a long time, and now it's something that I just do to, I feel like it's a bit of me time. It's quite relaxing. My mum loves to hear me play the piano, right? But I try to play the piano to all the apps to get it to give me feedback, but it's not there yet.
Oh, I see.
So, like, if you put voice mode on ChatGPT and play a song, it's like, good job, Leandro. That sounds real. Like, it has no concept of the timing, like what I want. And I'm a subscriber of a few music services that are using AI to give you training, but it's not at the point where it can listen and say, and this is a great use case, by the way, because my son now plays too. And like, I tell him, hey, like, you really sped up in the middle there, but the timing hasn't changed on the music, or your staccato, I'm getting a little bit technical for piano there, was not quite crisp. And like, that would be a great use case, right?
Mhm.
Because a teacher can do that. But and I don't know, I've got scars from going to piano lessons, growing up. The teacher, like that 1 hour lesson is like the performance, like you're there.
Yeah.
But when you're practicing to be able to get that guidance, all the time in a non-provocative way. Like I had an Italian teacher that was really strict.
My
Almost.
mom's a piano teacher,
Oh,
so I
did you
know.
want to get the
I know.
wooden stick out? To be able to say, hey, Leandro, great job. You played there. You sped up in the middle. Like, let's keep the pacing more consistent. The staccato there was not crisp. You might want to practice this. What a great use case,
Mm.
right? And it's something that you can do at your own pace. But sound is not quite there yet. It's still very much the written word and voice that is being optimized at the
Well, we know
moment.
what you're gonna fund, what company you're gonna fund, in the coming months. Is there anything coming back to the conversations that we had about digital labor, about skill sets and teams, about, again, the agents and so on and so forth. Is there anything else that you think we should touch on?
Oh, let's see. I think so. Let me go in a few areas. Firstly, number one, the use case. So I've talked about B2B a lot because that's what we're doing, right? Sales, marketing, customer service. But when I look at how our customers are deploying, and then I'll come back to how it impacts marketing, is quite varied. So one of our great customers is like High Pages, and High
We
Pages.
had him on the podcast.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
Ruby on the podcast
Ah,
a few months ago.
so for the folks that don't know, basically help you find a tradie to do a whole variety of things in your home. Now, their challenge is that the tradie, and I don't know about you, but like when I first started using, I was always like, who are these guys, right? Like, do they really know what they're doing? And now they've implemented on their app, you can see the licenses and qualifications that anyone that comes out to your house does. And you can even go through and check the license on the like Victorian or the New South Wales website. So that, by the way, you learn a lot. You're like, is that a license? I didn't know. Oh, they can work up to $5,000 on something, but above that, they need something else. And I've actually had people where I say, your job's more than like, oh, they're like, oh, yeah, right. So it's important that
Yeah,
that's
right.
correct, right? Because the warranties and all these things. Now, when they get someone on the platform, that used to be a manual task. Like you want to join, okay, I'm going to need this certificate, this line, and tradies, right? They run from their vans. They don't have all this paperwork. So it took a long time between the, back and forth. Now they've actually got an agent that does that in 10 minutes or less. Like it has a conversation with them. Now, is that a marketing use case? I think it is because like an onboarding a new customer for them. And then on the other side, because they're a marketplace, the person that is now finding that they can't get someone in their area, there's a new tradie within 10 minutes now in their area. So that's an incredible use
Mm.
case, right? If you go across to Fisher and Paykel, for them, it was being a bit more proactive with service. So they sell high-end appliances. The fridge might have a replacement cartridge for water if it's got a water filter. And if it's anything like me, you'll forget that you do need to replace that every 6 months or every year, right? Otherwise, the filter doesn't actually filter anything, right? So they wanted to be useful, and so their agent is programmed from the date of the installation of a fridge to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, you're approaching your 6 months. Would you like to look at getting one? And it's not just an automation, because that could be an email. It can say, okay, well, you're here. You can either go pick it up in this area where it's in stock, or we can send you one and actually help complete that purchase. So again, is that a marketing use case or is that a sales use case, right?
Is that an operation use case? It's like hard to know, but yeah, it is a customer experience piece.
Yeah, and that's where my sort of personal passion comes in. I think in this time, I've talked about this with a lot of CMOs. Now, yes, I'm a bit of a geek and I've got the tech background, but I do think CMOs in Australia in particular have an opportunity to own more of the customer experience. And my lesson, I spent 10 years in the US. A lot of the CMOs there are closer to the technology because those companies in the US are definitely faster to embrace technology, and those teams work closer with their big IT departments to implement rapid change. Right? If you look at some of the best customer experiences they had, they're probably some of those American companies that just bring that all together through technology or through an app. When it comes to Australia, a lot of the marketers and CMOs I talk to are still much more brand first people and thinking about advertising. But they have an opportunity here to really pull a seat at the C-suite table and go, hey, everything you just talked about is customer experience, and the department that should be dealing that is marketing.
I love that.
And so I'm pushing them, and it's hard, right? It's a bit of a personal mission. I sit on the AANA Board, which is Australia's Advertising National Association, and I'm pushing them. I'm like, we should be owning more here, right? We should be pushing our marketers to have skills here. But to do that, you have to understand the technology. Back to our point before, it's not, you can code apps and you don't need anything, like some fundamentals you need to understand. Where is it that the handoffs are going to be between your customer and yourself? Where do you need to bring these skills into your team, which I'd love to talk to about how I'm doing that in my team. And then how you can own this customer experience, because by the way, your customers are changing their behaviors as well. So like we talked about before with search. So that's what I'm pushing for. It's pretty slow, I would say, in Australia, that conversation.
Yeah, it's hard. It's also a mindset shift, and also the skill set. You need to have those skills.
Yes, and that's where it's interesting. So what I'm doing with my team, so I'm trying to rise all boats, right? I'm like all hands, every meeting.
I want to hear about this, right? I want to hear about how you're training your team to be fully enabled. Not necessarily just on Salesforce capabilities, but also the remit. How are you doing that? Because human nature, we resist change, especially if it comes to, I've been doing it this way for the past X number of years, and now I got to really rethink how I'm doing it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really challenging. So how are you going about training your team to be fully enabled?
I've actually first saw that with the team, which was, and it wasn't a resistance to change, but it's like, hey, like we're busy, right? I think then you go to this next stage for folks that lean in. It's actually, oh, I get it. I'm bought in, but I don't have the time to learn these things. So you actually need to create the time and make the time. And then you get to a stage where that's incredible. How do I do everything with this?
So, I have time now.
Yes.
I will make time.
So let me walk you back a little bit. Like I've been on this journey, for over a year because I saw this. And by the way, look, AI, I'm just going to put it out there, is not new. We at Salesforce have been doing AI tools for 10 years. Right?
The concept's been around 54, I think, something like that.
And in our, like we do 1 trillion predictions every single week at Salesforce with AI tools for our customers. It's mind-boggling. But one specifically on Gen AI and how it sort of implements some of the roles. So the first thing was just awareness. Like I was probably there was lone voice in. Now remember, we're a global company, and then I run a team. Used to do across Asia Pacific, but now do Australia, New Zealand as it's a more mature market. And in our market, a lot of those great marketers have come from a traditional path, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be out there and talk about this like every time we talk, right? So they just hearing it from me, hearing from the top, this is coming, this is coming, this is important. Obviously, they then started sort of hearing the external noise, right? And then internal noise. But then I needed to sort of show them the way. So I started by like when we'd go on, some of our offsites or on-sites, I would inject it into the agenda. Hey, today we're going to do, and sort of spoon feed them. We're going to go and actually where I started was looking at the processes we had. So it's boring, but a big thing that I did was I want to look at the crown jewel processes we have in our marketing team, whether it's like executing an event and getting registration going, or following a webinar and the leads that drop from those, or website content launch of a new piece of content. Like some of these crown jewels that we just do every single day and every single week, map those. So it wasn't even about AI at that point. It's like, let's understand what we're doing today. And by doing that, I then highlighted to them is, all right, now tell me where all the pain points are in this process and getting them to share, well, actually, before I can even do that event, I have an internal process to raise a purchase requisition to secure the venue. And that's a pain, right? Oh, cool. Okay, that's interesting. But once you get that, can you get going? No, then I've actually got to get legal to approve that we can do the data compliance if we get people to, sign up to the, registration, that we've got all the right T's and C's down the bottom because we're an opt-in country. Oh, okay. So it was mind-blowing actually to understand like how much work we had created about the work before you even got to do the webinar,
Yeah.
right? So that was kind of number one. So that's when they started going, maybe there could be a better way. All right. So then literally starting to share with them, I'm like, who is going to be someone that I can tell that is a little bit more excited about this to go off and do something and then come back and share. So it's getting people going, like I'm planting 1 million seeds almost here and getting them to share little wins. And we do that whether it's on Slack, like, hey, just share your little quick win, record a little video clip of your quick win, or in my all hands, showcase a quick win. Then people start getting interested and curious. Then we organize time for official like learning. So obviously we're learning our own tools, but also our third provider tools, what's available to them. And so, okay, but even then, right, like people learn stuff and then they go back to their job
Yeah.
and then they
And
don't
they
use
forget
it.
about it. Yeah. It's
Right.
just like, oh, that was great. That was awesome.
Yeah. So actually, as a company, we've now implemented Agentforce learning days. So once a quarter, the whole company is now hearing from what's happening in the field. Here's a specific thing, and then go off and do trails,
That's
which
a full
is
day.
full day.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you get to mix and match it of how you spend that time. Like, do you want to spend more time watching sort of some of the vision, or do you want to get hands-on? And so we actually set a company challenge last year to get everyone to what we're calling Agent Blazer status. So on our learning platform Trailhead, you can go and it just basically teaches you some of what I was saying before, the fundamentals of what is this technology? What will it mean? How does it work? Before you then actually get hands-on and you start building agents. So by the end of next month, we have to have 100% of the company become the first level
Wow.
of this. And actually, as the management team, they've pushed it one further. So I'm part of the senior management team. We get together the top 500 leaders around the world. You actually have to hit the next level above that, or they won't let you into the event, which is even more
Wow.
hands-on, right?
Impressive.
So really weaving in to the day-to-day. And then sort of what I've done now is that you've got to make time for people to actually test and change this. And so I'm kind of giving permission to, if we're doing 5 webinars, let's run this one differently, right? And sort of giving them permission and air cover. And that means you may need to adjust some of your outcome metrics because, hey, potentially it's not going to work to the same level.
Yeah, we
as
roll
on
out
before.
the AI on the website and it doesn't get us leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, a good example I just read overnight from my team on Slack, they've actually generated some of the landing pages completely with some new tools that we have. So they gave the direction, but actually the copy and everything that's come up, because that's what we need for the agent to be able to generate these pages. And so again, did that take longer? Probably because they were talking about it, having meetings, and will the results, I'll tell you next time we talk whether they worked or not, right? And so, yeah, so that's kind of the next step. And I see this more and more like in the flow of work. And that's where and it's still early days, right? The momentum is going. Like I mentioned, we've got our website agent, SDR agent. I expect that we will have basically everyone interacting with one of our tools and a third party tool by, I'd say, the end of the year, if not 10%, 20% of their day, right? And then you keep going from there. And so Like I said, we are just like other organizations. I have a marketing team that also needs to come along on this journey. We're doing it together with our customers. It's an exciting time. And so as a leader, I have to ensure that I'm also on top of it and pushing the boundaries there myself, because otherwise the team slows down.
Leandro, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was great. I mean, we had some spicy questions. We had some practical questions. I really do enjoy the conversation. Anytime we catch up. So I just want to say thanks so much for coming on the pod again.
No, my pleasure. Like I said, I think it's an evolving topic, right? And so I would say if anyone is curious, get hands on, right? Like whether it's Salesforce, we have free tools like Trailhead you can learn, or just keep up with it for yourself, like hi, I'm doing, learn about it yourself, but also encourage your teams. Like something that I'm really passionate about is that Australia doesn't get left behind. And so I want to make sure that Australian marketers and that marketing has a seat at the table is that, we need to take this moment. I think it's an opportunity of a lifetime for all of us. So lean in, folks, and I'm excited. And if you want to reach out, hit me up on LinkedIn.